Hello friends! Today is actually going to be a book haul. I have bought some books recently and it is mostly middle grade because I have been really wanting those feel-good books that you really can't get anywhere but middle grade. And so I went through all the lists that I've had that I've wanted to read for a while and kind of just went around to see what I could find. Some of them were ones that I had been wanting and some of them were cover buys. But in any case, here is a mostly middle grade book haul. There are a few YA and maybe some adult thrown in, but not very many. First up is the first two books in a trilogy by Michelle Harrison. We have A Pinch of Magic and A Sprinkle of Sorcery. This series follows three sisters who are cursed, and they have magical objects that is supposed to help them change their fate, and it does lead them on an adventure. I really wanted these copies because this is the UK edition, and they are oh so lovely. The US editions aren't quite as nice, so I paid a little bit more for these than I wanted to, but it was well worth it. I couldn't find the third book in this series, but I am still on the lookout for it in this edition. Then we have everyone's favorite recently, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I think this is the one I'm most excited to get to because I've just heard so much about it. In this we have Lioness, who is a case manager, and he is assigned a very top secret assignment where he is to go to this island to investigate an orphanage for magical children, and he is to determine whether these children are dangerous because it says that they are meant to bring about the end of days. The Dollmaker of Krakow by R.M. Romero. We have Carolina, who is a living doll, and her king and queen of dolls has been overthrown, and there's been a magical wind that sweeps Carolina away, where she ends up in Krakow, Poland, in the shop of a doll maker. And Carolina helps this doll maker kind of break out of his shell and start to make some friends. But then Nazi soldiers make their way into Poland, and these two stop at nothing to help save their Jewish friends. I imagine this one is going to be a pretty tough one to read. This is, again, a children's book, but it does cover some heavy topics. Next is The House with Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson. I really wanted the UK edition of this one as well, but I could not find it anywhere. In this, Marinka is a young girl who lives with her grandmother, who is a Yaga, which is a guardian of the afterlife, and her job is to help guide people into the afterlife. And they live in this magical house that has chicken legs. This house carries them all over the world, and it also acts as Marinka's friend because it can, play games with her, play hide and seek, all that kind of stuff. But Marinka really wants a real, live, human friend. And one day she breaks all the rules and tries to make one, and it ends up somehow making her grandmother disappear, and so she has to go on this great quest to try and save her. But it's not picking it up, but there's an imprint of chicken feet on the cover on the inside, or under the dust cover, I should say. And I love getting used books because you always find these things. This belonged to Marley Sim. And this is very, you can feel it feels like the skin of a chicken leg. Next we have Wildwood by Colin Meloy. In this we have Prue, a young girl who lives a pretty ordinary life. That is, until her brother is abducted by a murder of crows, and they take him into the impassable wilderness, which is a forest that no one ever enters, or at least no one ever returns from. So she and a friend go into the woods to rescue her brother, but they end up going on this grand adventure to try and save the wood itself. The illustrations in this are just wonderful. The front, as you can see, the cover is watercolor, and the texture of it looks and feels like watercolor paper. And the illustrations inside are, they're wonderful. I mean, we have line illustrations like these, and we have, look at this. We have the sunbeam coming through that makes it look even more wonderful. So, I am excited. This one's a chunky one, but I'm excited about it. Next is A Wolf for a Spell by Karah Sutton. First off, look at this cover. Is that not absolutely beautiful? It's got all of those rich, muted, earthy colors that just draw me in. I love them so much. This is based on Russian folklore, so we are set in the Russian wilderness, where we follow Zima, a young wolf whose family becomes threatened, and so she seeks the help of the witch, Baba Yaga. And of course, Baba Yaga's magic is never given freely, and so in order to help her, she has to pay the price of Baba Yaga's magic, and she ends up helping a young girl, Nadia, who will also in turn help Zima because they have a common enemy they must learn to destroy. If the cover wasn't enough to draw me in, the back of the cover mentions this is for fans of people who love The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which, yes. Speaking of The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, I have already read this one, and I fell in love with it. I read it from the library, and I knew that I absolutely had to have a copy of it to keep forever. So I got one. This is a multi-perspective book, and it surrounds a town called the Providence, where every year they sacrifice a baby to a witch that lives in the wood because they fear that without giving the sacrifice each year that she's going to come and destroy the village. But as it turns out, the witch is not bad. She is very good, and she has no idea why this town keeps leaving babies in the woods every year. But she doesn't ask questions. She just takes the babies and she delivers them to other cities, other towns, to families who will love and raise them. And it turns into this wild adventure to try and save the town. And there's a tiny dragon and a big swamp monster in it who are my favorite characters. And I just, it's so heartwarming and whimsical and wonderful. I'm sure I explain it a lot better in my wrap-up from October, I believe, when I read this. So if you want to check that out, you may. But I just, it just gives you all the feels, and I loved it so much. We have The Hatmakers by Tamzin Merchant. I really just like the cover of this one, and I'm not too keen on what it's about, so let's just read the inside. In Cordelia's London, magic is real and is woven into the objects created by the 5 maker families: the Hatmakers, the Bootmakers, the Watchmakers, the Cloakmakers, and the Glovemakers. Growing up in her father Prospero's footsteps, 11-year-old Cordelia Hatmaker has learned the family's ancient skills and secrets so she can one day make her own enchanted hat. When Prospero and his ship are lost at sea during an important ingredient expedition, her grief-stricken aunt and uncle must turn their attention towards fulfilling a decree to create a peace hat for the king. But Cordelia refuses to accept that her father is gone for good and desperately begins making plans to find him. Then the peace hat is stolen, along with the peace boots, watch, cloak, and gloves, and Cordelia realizes there is a more menacing plot against the Makers Guild, and that Prospero Hatmaker's disappearance may be connected. Cordelia must uncover the truth about who is behind the thefts if she is to save the Makers and find out what really happened to her father. That sounds like a nice magical adventure. Recently I've been rewatching Anne with an E on Netflix for the third time because I love it so much. But it made me realize that I've never actually read Anne of Green Gables, which is of course what the show is based on. And so I found this lovely, lovely edition that's actually the first 3 books all in one. So we have Anne of Green Gables, first published in 1908. We have Anne of Avonlea, published in 1909. And Anne of the Island, published in 1915. I'm sure you know this, but it follows Anne, a young orphan who goes to live at a farm called Green Gables with Matthew and Marilla Cuthbert. She does eventually get adopted, but these stories sort of chronicle her life and all of her adventures. Alright, and the last 3 books are my YA and adult books. We have The Night Circus by Erin Morgan. I cannot say her name. By Erin Morgan. We have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. In this, we have a very magical circus that mysteriously appears during the night in cities all around the world. And in this circus, we have performers like any other circus, but there are 2 particular circus members who are bound by their masters to compete in what's called the games, in which they must fight each other in different challenges, but they are unaware that only one of them is allowed to be left standing at the end of these games, and they do end up falling in love and trying to outwit their masters. And next we have A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Brigid Kemmerer. I've actually already read this one. I read it not too long after my order came in. But this is the second book to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I'm currently reading the last book in this trilogy from the library, but I will be adding that one to my collection as well as soon as I can find it not at full price. I really, really loved the first book in the series, and I very much enjoyed this one as well. And lastly, we have Oracle of the Ages, Reflections on the Curious Life of Fortune Teller Mahalie Lancaster by Dot Moore. So this is it's a nonfiction, it's a creative nonfiction based on my hometown's local witch legend, who is Mahalie Lancaster. And she was a very fascinating woman. She was a lawyer, a school teacher, a political activist, a fortune teller, a numbers runner. She was just so interesting. And this book is stories about Mahalie from the people in her life who knew her the most. The legend surrounding Mahalia Lancaster at home is, of course, the high school dare of going to her grave and circling it, and if the gravestone cracks, you are surely meant to die. Or if you desecrate her grave or gravestone in any way, you are said to be next on the list to perish. So I'm very interested in this. I haven't been home in probably at least 18 months, if not longer, so I'm ready to get a little bit of home back in me, and maybe this book will help me do that. Okay, and that's it. Those are all the books I've bought recently. Let me know if any of these sound interesting to you, or if you've read them, let me know what you think. And as always, I thank you so much for being here, and I hope that means I see you soon.